WWE CEO Nick Khan says Vince McMahon could step down from his role as executive chairman of the WWE Board of Directors after a possible sale of the company. John Cena's match for WrestleMania is reportedly locked in, but who is it going to be against? Ronda Rousey. Her match at WrestleMania is also reportedly locked in, but who is it going to be against? We've got an update as to why the Edge-Finn Balor match was pulled from the Royal Rumble. HBK Shawn Michaels speaks on Mandy Rose's exit from WWE, claiming he did not fire her. Batista comments on Triple H leading WWE creative, and an update on WWE's major live event scheduled for India. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's start off talking about who else but Vince McMahon. Yes, of course, he's been in the headlines recently amid lawsuits, returns, allegations, you name it. Vince McMahon is officially back on the WWE Board of Directors. In case somehow you weren't aware or you were living under a rock, Vince elected himself as the company's executive chairman, with his return being able to help to facilitate a potential sale of the company. With McMahon having the final say on who the potential buyer for WWE will be, many have wondered what that means for his future in the company, and if he will only sell to a suitor that will keep him in power. WWE CEO Nick Khan spoke about Vince during yesterday's earnings call, where he was asked if McMahon would step down from the company following a sale should it be beneficial to the shareholders. Khan said, quote, "Yes, without question. He's declared it to the board. He's declared it to us in management. It's all about shareholder value. Obviously, he is a shareholder, so it's not about what role he'll have, it's about maximizing that value opportunity." Khan then went on, speaking about the potential buyers for the company and how they need more than simply, quote, deep pockets to be a suitable option. He added, quote, "A partner that has more than simply deep pockets, so a partner that understands the media business, that's in the media business, that understands how to further monetize the media business. Also a partner that certainly understands our product, our intellectual property, what we're doing with it, what can be done with it, media rights both domestically and internationally. We see the international growth opportunity is huge." So these are folks, in terms of choosing the right partner, these are all things that we're going to be looking at in terms of who can accelerate our business. Again, what's the best value for the shareholders, he said. Now, when it comes to Vince McMahon, since his return, reportedly there have been a lot of office cuts as McMahon looks to reduce company costs ahead of a potential sale. Further to previous reports that WWE is performing office cuts, Dave Meltzer has provided further insight, saying, quote, in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, quote, "There have been a lot more cuts on the corporate side in the past few weeks in different departments since the return of Vince McMahon. The belief is that these cuts are being made to lower the cost to get the company ready for a sale." Matthew Drew, who was the Senior Vice President of International, was the biggest name let go. He came from DAZN in 2021's June month, which means he was a Nick Khan hire. Since Khan hired a number of people from DAZN in 2021. His job included managing global media partners, devising international strategy for overseas live events, digital consumer products, and new revenue opportunities. Now, when it comes to Triple H's view on Vince McMahon's return to the WWE, there's been a lot of speculation about possible friction between the two. Now, Vince McMahon, as I mentioned, recently returned to Titan Towers for the first time since his retirement from WWE back in July. This comes less than a month after McMahon forced himself, Michelle Wilson, and George Barrios onto the board of directors, removing 3 members of the board and leading to another 2 members to resign. While McMahon is currently the executive chairman and at work at Titan Towers, he is yet to appear backstage at Raw, SmackDown, or the Royal Rumble, and Triple H remains as the company's chief content officer. Triple H spoke on the WWE earnings call yesterday, where he spoke about McMahon being back in the company. He said, quote, "I also want to add, having Vince around has been great. Having him back and involved, even just at the board level, comes with his incredible insights." What else is he going to say, I suppose? I hate having my father-in-law back. No, it's Vince McMahon's company, and I'm sure, especially on a call to investors, he wants to portray that everything is okay, even if it is not. Now, this all comes from WWE releasing their fourth quarter and full year earnings for 2022 yesterday. Among other things, WWE revealed that its revenue for 2022 reached $1.3 billion, which is the highest in the history of the company. Now, per WWE, revenue was $325.3 million, an increase of 5%. Operating income was $62.7 million, a decrease of 22%, and adjusted OIBDA1 was $90 $90.2 million, a decrease of 4%. Returned $8.9 million of capital to shareholders through dividend payments. Crown Jewel was the most viewed international event in WWE history. Domestic unique viewership on Peacock increased 70% over the prior year event. Each WWE domestic premium live event, Extreme Rules and Survivor Series, was the most viewed event in the history, with year-over-year increases of 36% and 46% respectively in domestic unique viewership. WWE announced a multi-year extension of its partnership with MultiChoice to expand the distribution of the company's content in sub-Saharan Africa. In January 2023, WWE held the Royal Rumble at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. The event was the most viewed Royal Rumble in WWE's history, with a 52% year-over-year increase in domestic unique viewership, and generated the highest gate in the event's history. Now, when it comes to a lot of other things, there's plenty of other quotes and comments that we won't get into. Needless to say, it was a very, 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 very successful year for WWE, despite the controversies happening with Vince McMahon. However, it's leading to some being concerned that with McMahon's return, everything could come crumbling down. Not Hulk Hogan when it comes crashing down and it hurts inside. No, it could come crumbling down financially. However, it doesn't look to be just yet, but it does depend on how close Vince gets to the creative side of things. Now, speaking of Raw and SmackDown, Nick Khan has touted some very impressive records for both WWE television shows. In the earnings, the company touted a new record profit of the year 2022, raking in $1.3 billion over the past 12 months. Business for WWE has been up in a lot of ways since Triple H took over WWE Creative back in July, and another impressive Raw and SmackDown record was set last year. On the earnings call, WWE CEO Nick Khan spoke about WWE's 2022 gates, noting that the company had set record gates for Raw and SmackDown in more than 20 cities in the year 2022. This comes off WWE hosting the largest gate in Royal Rumble history at the Alamo Dome last Saturday, and WrestleMania in Los Angeles already being close to breaking records later this year. The call was taken by Nick Khan, Paul Triple H Levesque, and Frank Riddick, with no words from Vince McMahon following his return from the company. Of course, Stephanie McMahon, who resigned from the company earlier this month, was obviously not present on the call, as she is no longer with the company whatsoever. So certainly another day, more major stories when it comes to Vince McMahon. Do you think Vince McMahon would step down if the company was sold, if it was to the benefit of the shareholders? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. He came back, even though the company, specifically the board of directors, they didn't think it was to the benefit of the shareholders, but Vince came back anyway. Interesting. John Cena at WrestleMania. Reportedly, despite not being around for the majority of the build, he is locked in for his match. It's being reported that John Cena's match is locked in for the upcoming WWE Premium Live event WrestleMania 39 on April 1st and 2nd, 2023. In the current issue of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reports, quote, "For WrestleMania, the locked-in matches at this point are Reigns vs. Rhodes for the Universal title, Charlotte Flair vs. Ripley for the SmackDown Women's title, Belair vs. the Chamber winner for the Raw Women's title, John Cena vs. Austin Theory, no word on whether this will or won't be, for the US title, and another match which we'll talk about involving Ronda Rousey just shortly." Now, Cena, is he going to be around that much in the build-up to WrestleMania? Chances are no. Cena is currently in Melbourne, Australia, filming a movie with Zac Efron. It does suggest that he won't have much, if any, time to complete any pre-match build-up, at least not in person at WWE shows. The production for the movie, which is named Ricky Stanicki, will take place throughout February and March. While Cena may not be live and in person, it was reported that he had filmed, quote, "some content with Theory that we've yet to see." As per previous reports, though, it may relate more to WWE 2K23, the video game, which of course Cena is the cover star of. However, he could have filmed something that would build up to the WrestleMania match against Austin Theory. We'll have to wait and see. But as I said before, Cena doesn't have to be around for this match to get locked in. There have been other matches in WrestleMania history that the build has been one-sided, with one of the opponents never showing up. The Undertaker was in both of them. John Cena versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 34. That match wasn't even officially announced till the day of the show, or once the show was actually live on the air. And also The Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. The Undertaker didn't show up in the build-up to that one at WrestleMania 31 either. So Cena not showing up and still having a match at WrestleMania, that's entirely possible. And if anything, according to Dave Meltzer, highly likely. What about Ronda Rousey? What is she going to be doing at WrestleMania? Well, her match reportedly is also locked in at WrestleMania, as per Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Io Sky and Dakota Kai versus Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler will be the Women's Tag Team Championship match taking place at WrestleMania this year. Io Sky and Dakota Kai are current members of Damage Control and are in their second reign as WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. The first reign saw them defeat Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez for the championships in September 2022. They would lose their titles to Alexa Bliss and Asuka just shy of 50 days into their reign, but then they defeated them at Crown Jewel to win them back. This marked the first time that a women's championship had changed hands in the Middle East, and it would appear that Rousey and Baszler will be challenging them for the titles at WrestleMania, which is interesting considering both tag teams are heels. Will they throw a babyface tag team in there? Will they try and turn one of the tag teams? I guess they would maybe turn Rousey and Baszler, even though they're not really that likable. But I do like the idea of the Baszler-Rousey tag team, even though on television the booking of it wasn't great. We haven't seen Rousey, of course, since she dropped the SmackDown Women's Championship to Charlotte Flair at the end of 2022. She wasn't at the Royal Rumble, so when she'll return to build up to this match for WrestleMania remains to be seen. Speaking of the Royal Rumble, at one point there was an Edge versus Finn Balor match that was scheduled, with some suggesting it was going to be a Hell in a Cell match. Now, the pitch for the match would have been Demon Finn Balor facing Edge at the event that would take place on January 28. In the current Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reports, quote, "The reason that at one time talked about Brood Edge versus Demon Balor Hell in a Cell match at the Rumble didn't happen is because Edge was filming a television show until this past week and thus couldn't do WWE television in the build-up to the match." Now, this is most likely probably this Percy Jackson series for Disney+. The real-life Adam Copeland was announced as a character. The character specifically Ares in the upcoming Disney Plus series Percy Jackson and the Olympians, a series based on the popular young adult novels featuring a young demigod and his various adventures. Principal photography on the series finished on February 2nd and was announced by Becky Riordan, wife of author Rick Riordan. She would later add that the series is a wrap, but it doesn't necessarily mean the series is done and there is still work to do before the show does launch on Disney Plus. The series is scheduled to premiere in 2024 with season 1 consisting of 8 episodes, so realistically that's why Edge versus Balor didn't happen for the Rumble, because he was working on that film. But then it kind of makes me think, well, why did that match even, people think that match was going to happen in the first place? They must have surely known that Edge wasn't going to be available that entire time. Maybe it was a miscommunication, I don't know. Now, speaking of the Rumble, morale, as one would expect, significantly up. Now, last year, coming out of the Royal Rumble in 2022, my goodness me, their morale was, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, at an all-time low. But that shifted significantly based on the follow-ups that Sean Ross Sapp has provided this year. Of course, Vince McMahon was not seen at the Royal Rumble, and his creative influence was not felt on the show. Those that Fightful have heard back from stated that from a day-to-day and weekly basis, the atmosphere is much more laid back. One of the only reminders of Vince's influence remains the Vince's Office directional sign that hasn't been changed since he left, but points to a section of the backstage area that's completely different. One source says it's not like anyone is fearful of bringing up his name, but generally most haven't really asked much about it since Triple H, Nick Khan and Kevin Dunn held meetings assuring the roster that McMahon wouldn't be involved in creative or talent relations. One talent that had noted to Fightful that the process of the Rumble itself was the easiest in a long time without McMahon at the helm, and that there was way less last-minute changes. The talent also said you can't really count 2021 towards that because of COVID, but that this year's was a dream compared to last year's nightmare. Even NXT talent reportedly Fightful spoke to expressed optimism that the now one-year ban on NXT talent being in the Rumble was lifted. Talent also spoke of the main event segment being a, quote, new age curtain sellout, with many people quietly around monitors watching the Bloodline Sami Zayn angle play out. The only complaints that Fightful heard from were about, surprise, surprise, the Hardy performance cutting into the time of others, and some minor transitional things that they believe the current regime will get used to. That Hardy performance was really something else, wasn't it? Now, speaking of NXT and the NXT stars in the Rumble, NXT superstars returned to the Royal Rumble this year, but only on the women's side of things. Now, Fightful Select reported previously that numerous women on the NXT roster were in town for the Royal Rumble, with 3 NXT talent appearing in the match itself. Shawn Michaels told Fightful Select yesterday that the WWE main roster higher-ups let NXT know who they wanted, and he provided feedback. They did make it known to NXT that they only needed female talent and were good on the men's side of things. Fightful had reported that WWE was more interested in unconventional surprises than bringing in past legends. Fightful are also told that Ivy Nile was on the scene at the Royal Rumble this year as an alternate if needed. Last year, WWE WWE higher-ups drew a distinct line in the sand and established that NXT talent would absolutely not be used, as they didn't want to be in the mix, and they didn't want to mix WWE rather, and NXT 2.0 talent at the time. As things stand, no NXT men have been used since Damian Priest in 2021. That served as his call-up, though. Other than that, it was Matt Riddle in 2020, who lasted a matter of seconds. Of course, you had Keith Lee that year as well, but NXT had no say in how long anyone lasted in any of these Rumbles. Now, when Fight for Last, they were told that nobody that appeared had their Rumble appearance serve as a call-up this year, as it did with Damian Priest. So, some interesting, certainly, notes about the Royal Rumble and the behind-the-scenes operations. Speaking of NXT, of course, one of the biggest stories in recent months was the departure of former NXT Women's Champion Mandy Rose. Now, Mandy abruptly lost the NXT Women's Championship to Women's Iron Survivor Challenge winner Roxanne Perez on the December 13 episode's main event before being fired the following day. WWE Senior Vice President of Talent Development creative Shawn Michaels held a media call ahead of NXT Vengeance Day yesterday, where he discussed Mandy's departure from the company. Michaels detailed the shift in plans following the situation before saying he wasn't the one who fired her. He said, quote, "Obviously not the ideal situation. I will say, if I'm allowed to say it for the record, I didn't fire her. I can't fire anybody. Only thing correct about any of that is that I handled the creative. It was unfortunate. I think Mandy was fantastic for us. I absolutely enjoyed working with her. She was a phenomenal champion. We would have loved things to have gone different and been able to build our story with Roxanne, but I was put in a position where I had to make a call creatively, and so we did that. It's one of the things that I've learned doing this job. Nothing comes before the brand. We have to put these things forward, and that's what we did. Roxanne was certainly where we were going regardless. We just went a few weeks earlier than we expected to. The great thing is, now that we're right back on course, I will say honestly, I think the world of Mandy Rose. She was nothing but phenomenal with us. We'll miss her, but we're thrilled about Roxanne Perez being the NXT Women's Champion and taking us into the future. Now, of course, the big story was that her release came soon after the company found out about the type of content she was posting on her fan time subscription page. WWE reportedly believed they had, quote, absolutely no choice but to release her, and she acted, quote, quote, way crossed the line on what was acceptable. She's since pushed back on that, but it's also been revealed that she's made more than $1 million on her fan time account since committing herself fully to that account. So I would argue that everyone kind of worked out in the end, certainly. Batista, what a big star Batista now is in Hollywood, and he's given an update on his thoughts on Triple H leading the creative for WWE. Of course, Triple H took over WWE creative back in July and has led to a very positive upswing in both backstage morale and fan appreciation. Dave Batista has been linked to Triple H his entire WWE career, with his final match being against Triple H at WrestleMania 35 back in 2019. Batista spoke to comicbook.com, where he spoke about Triple H taking over creative and how he believes it's the best thing for the company. He said, quote, "I think it's the best thing for the company. It really is. It's a personal thing with me because I know Triple H. I know how well he knows this business. I know how much he loves this business. As far as this business goes, he's the smartest guy I've ever met in my life. He made me who I was. He was responsible for my career. I've never been ashamed to say that. I think he is so dedicated to this product and just wants the best for it. I think he's absolutely the right person. I've never met anyone else who thinks the way he does as far as wrestling goes." Of course, Batista's hugely successful. He's in this current M. Night Shyamalan film that's coming out recently. He's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy when that drops later this year. It's going to be his final appearance as Drax, unfortunately. But he's been doing fantastic stuff. Knives Out as well. Batista is bona fide Hollywood star. And I would argue him and Cena are pretty close in terms of the best actors post-WWE career. I think The Rock, obviously the most successful, but you could argue about the acting chops there. I'd probably say Batista. In terms of range, he wants to do it all. He is a bona fide actor and incredibly impressive, and I love Batista movies. An update on WWE's live event plans for this big India live event. It was postponed previously, and an update has emerged on WWE's plans to run a big international live event, this time in India, following previously delayed plans. WWE is clearly invested in India, having held an event previously. Held the WWE Superstar Spectacle to celebrate India's Republic Day on January 6 in 2021. 26 rather, in 2021. The company has also held tryouts in India and had hopes of opening a performance center in the country. In late 2022, it was reported that a big live event was going to be held in the country, though plans were postponed due to, at the time, quote, unspecific reasons. It would later be revealed that the event had been cancelled whilst the merger of WWE's broadcast partner Sony 6 and Z Media took place. In an update to the news, Nick Khan spoke about the places during the recent fourth quarter 2022 financial earnings call, saying, quote, "In terms of India, allow me to tell you that from our perspective, what's going on there and what will go on there, we're waiting for the Z-Sony India merger to be approved by the regulatory authorities. The hope is in April. Keep in mind what you already know, COVID stunted our growth opportunities in India and a number of places, but in India specifically, where I would say it almost was impossible to travel in and out of, we couldn't do local events there." Khan would go on to discuss the strategy for growth that he sees for India, stating, quotes, "So as soon as we have a sense of when the regulatory approval happens on Z and Sony India, look for a big live event in India. The best way to grow viewership, and I think we're seeing it proven with our UK shows, with the upcoming Montreal show and in other markets, is to have live events there. It's a much easier sale for our partners with their potential partners. It's a much easier sale for us with potential partners when they've been to the show and they see the power of it. It's just a smoother path. So as soon as that transaction is approved, look for us to be there in short order and to continue to build that empire in India." As I mentioned, in December, WWE teamed with Sony Sports Network in India to launch a campaign to create, quote, "deeper engagement with the youth," and expect news on that live event, I would say, fairly soon, as Nick Khan says, once they get approval for the merger. Finally, a bit of, I guess, sad news, but positive news when it comes to the outcome of it. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's mother was in a car crash. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has shared that his mother, Atta Johnson, is currently being evaluated after being involved in a car accident. He took to Instagram to share a photo of the mangled motor vehicle. He wrote, quote, "Thank you, God, she's okay. Angels of mercy watched over my mom as she was in a car crash late last night. She'll survive and continue to get evaluated. This woman has survived lung cancer, tough marriage, head-on collision with a drunk driver, and attempted suicide. She's a survivor in ways that make angels and miracles real. Thank you, LAPD and LAFD, for being so caring and focused. Thanks for staying on the phone and taking me through it all. I got one parent left, so if you still got your mom and dad, make sure you hug them hard, because you never know when you'll get that 3 a.m. call that we never want to get." Atta Johnson was spotted recently at ringside and backstage at WWE's latest premium live event, the Royal Rumble. Fans of the hit NBC show Young Rock have come to adore the character Atta Johnson, as the series follows not only the history of Dwayne, but showcases the indomitable spirit of Atta Maeva Johnson. Obviously, wish her the best of luck in her recovery, and fingers crossed she'll be okay. But it looks to be that there are positive news. And there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.